and being a purposeful victim, I was thinking about how come I still feel like I have to justify my existence? I'm not 30 anymore. And every day I still struggle. No matter what good I do in the world, there's still that piece of me in my brain, that little broken child that can tell us that we're unlovable and that we're not successful at anything we do. And I know it's a lie. But yet there's still a voice in my head that tells me that every time I accomplish something. And I was thinking about it yesterday. I was actually talking to a good friend of mine. And I said, all the people in my life that when I was a teenager, a young child, that told me I wasn't good enough, and there is a list of them. None of them are even around anymore. And I wonder sometimes why I feel so driven to achieve, because none of the people who told me I couldn't achieve are even alive to see me. So it tells me that my own heart and brain has not given myself permission to have boundaries. And I need to learn to heal even more on that. And making up the excuses for why we do things or why we don't do things. Carla was talking about having a hard time saying yes. And I think one of the things that we should look for is when we say, oh, well, this, but. Whenever you add a but or another piece to it, it truly means, if you think about it, the first part is a complete lie. So if I say, well, I really like Carla, but, and then I go on to tell you a whole bunch of other stuff about her, those are excuses. It's just like, oh, no, I can't help you, but, and then I go, because I'm going to be here, and I'm going to be there, and I'm busy. And so many times, the but is what lets other people argue with us and make us feel guilty about not doing or doing something. And so it's really hard, but I think one of the tools I would tell everyone to put in their tool belt is to say, no, but thank you for asking. Or, I really like Carla, period. Quit saying but. I teach at Mount Marty College, and it was one of the first exercises I always do with my students because I'll get emails all the time. I didn't get my work done because, I don't care anymore. As soon as you said the because, I'm done. Just say what you need to say. Be honest with ourselves. I think we lie to ourselves many times when we're struggling through things that can be purposeful victimization, not having our boundaries be set firm in place. And a little story before we go into the second half, just because I need to prep for that, is my father, he was around, but he wasn't around. I idolized my father. I think just because he was never ever abusive verbally or physically or anything to me, but he didn't protect me either. But he was my safe zone. He gave me the love of reading and knowledge. That was something he really loved to do, and he always brought me books and encouraged my education. And so he was really important in certain ways for me like that. And then when I had my first child, that would have been back in '88. Michael was maybe 2 months old. My dad showed up at my house. He brought him a big teddy bear and all this and spent a couple hours and had coffee. And he left, and I never thought nothing of it. And I called his house many times. He never answered. His wife never answered. Finally, she answered, and she's like, Terry, your dad left. I have no idea where he is. And none of us had heard from him. So for about 3 years, I never heard from my father at all. Sorry. And then my brother called me one day and said, Terry, Dad's in jail in Wyoming. They're bringing him back. So I went to see my father. But I had an epiphany I'll talk to you about in the second part of my dad choosing to run away and how being a purposeful victim made him do that. And the difference between his understanding of his own mental health and his trauma compared to mine, and the reason I've never ran away, even though thought has crossed my mind. So being a purposeful victim can come from so many things. Boundaries can be hard. Carla said we all have choices about putting our boundaries up. I believe that if you've been in a healthy relationship, a healthy family, but I think when you haven't been, you don't get to choose boundaries because we don't have the skills or the strength or the inner love for ourselves to be able to set healthy boundaries because we're working too hard. And we work with parents and families that have abused and neglected their own children. And there's many times in my day where I work with moms or dads, And when I sit down to talk to them and I can be me and be real, they actually listen and I can see change and a relationship build with them, and that is powerful. And I couldn't have done that without everything that I experienced. So I actually thank God that He gave me the power to experience it and live through it, but use it, understand it, and work on it to give gifts to other people. So I feel like one of my gifts is the power to share trauma. You know, as silly as it can sound, I do feel like what I do is actually a gift given to me from God. And so I think when we can take our trauma and turn it into good, we can start to heal and overcome it. We need to start educating ourselves and learning about what's going on in our lives so we can make our lives better and those around us. And I'm a firm believer in lifting my sisters up and giving people a hand up, not a hand out. It's really important to me.